Hey guys, before the video gets underway, I haven't done this in a while, but if we could shoot for 40 likes on this video, it would be absolutely amazing. And if you're new here to the channel, consider subscribing. We've been doing really well lately, and if you're new here already, say hello down in the comment section because I do try to get back to just about everyone. And as always recently on the channel, time codes are in the description of this video. Welcome to Downtown Sports. My name is Downtown Stephen Brown, and I guess this is sort of a second video in a series that I'm going to call Can the Maple Leafs Afford Him? And today we're going to be talking about Zach Hyman. Also did a video asking the question whether or not the Maple Leafs could afford Alex Pietrangelo. Went into extreme detail in that one, whether it was a good idea to do it or not, whether the St. Louis Blues can even afford to re-sign him at this point after re-signing Marco Scandella to just over $3.5 million or so. And I also did a video asking the question if they can afford to re-sign Morgan Riley when his contract eventually expires. So I'm going to be creating a playlist, Can the Maple Leafs Afford Them? And Zach Hyman's going to be the third edition in that series or playlist. So first off, in kind of the questions that I asked in the other previous videos, does this player even want to stay here? And unequivocally, Zach Hyman talks free agency. I want to be a Leaf for a long time. Zachary, I would like you to be a Leaf for a very long time. And just talking a little bit about Zach Hyman and how he came to the Toronto Maple Leafs before we progress a little bit further into this video. He started off as a guy who was drafted by the Florida Panthers, went the university route in the United States, but didn't really want to sign with the Florida Panthers, and then was eventually traded to the Leafs for Greg McKegg. And I mean, Greg McKegg has played in the NHL, you know, for it looks like a multitude of teams ever since that trade first happened, but not to the degree of success that Zach Hyman has experienced here with the Toronto Maple Leafs. When he was with the Toronto Marlies for just that one short season, he was Sheldon Keefe's go-to guy. Whenever they would watch over video, he'd be like, just watch what Zach did here, watch what Zach did here, watch what Zach did here. And for other players, that might start to get annoying after a while, but just like, he's just the nicest guy in the world, so there's no possible way you could hate him in any situation. You should probably just work as hard as he does. In Zach Hyman's rookie year, he was very controversial, caused a lot of arguments in Leafs Nation. He was stapled to the wing of Austin Matthews and William Nylander, and I mean, 28 points and 10 goals playing on their wing, probably not the best, but then we really started to understand why the next season as he put up 40 points, 15 goals, and it's just been progression ever since then. Of course, the 18-19 season playing with John Tavares and Mitch Marner, different line mates, but still scoring 21 goals in 71 games, 41 points, very respectable for the role that he played on that line. And then this season, it's just like, where did that come from? And I mean, you're going to look at Zach Hyman's 19.8% shooting percentage this year and say, Steven, the 21 goals in 51 games, even though he was on pace for over 30 this year, if he would have had a healthy season, not sustainable. That shooting percentage is just absolutely absurd. Well, I would show you where he's taking these shots from because they're right in front of the net. When certain things happen, it's not always clear who to give credit for, but a lot of people aren't going to realize or remember that Zach Hyman trade for Greg McKegg was made in a time where the Maple Leafs were in between general managers, and they were using their two assistants to orchestrate everything in Kyle Dubas and Mark Hunter. Those two both ran the drafts. Those two were responsible for trading Phil Kessel and also acquiring Zach Hyman and a conditional 7th round pick. Jesus, did you really have to do him that dirty, guys? All right, so we've gone over some Zach Hyman information and details. Let's jump into the meat and potatoes of this video. How much is our boy Zach going to be asking for when his contract expires at the end of the 2021 season? And of course, can the Maple Leafs afford the number that he's going to be asking for? Because right now, Zach Hyman at $2.25 million for whatever happens with this season and next season is probably one of the better value contracts around the league. When this deal was first signed, it was kind of viewed as a little bit of an overpayment by the Leafs, but if you were to take a look at the amount of minutes that Zach Hyman played and the role that he played, almost 17 minutes a night in his rookie season, over 17 minutes a night the year that he signed the contract, and then now this season over 19 minutes a night, yeah, that is not a third or a fourth line player. That is definitively at least a second line player by the minutes. But what's this guy worth? Because he was on pace for almost 34 goals this season, and I don't know if he would have actually done it, but it would have been hilarious to see him hit 30, considering the conversations that people were having about him just 2 seasons ago being an anchor on that line. But how much is this guy worth for someone that Mike Babcock crowned the best forechecker in the entire NHL? And I don't think that he's too far off with that assessment. Well, if I were to throw out a 4-year, $4 million deal for Zach Hyman, these are the comparable players that get spit out here. Jonas Donskoy, kind of a comparable player, I guess, in some sorts to Zach Hyman. Plays that same sort of role, I guess, on the Colorado Avalanche. Michael Furland, $3.5 million, $3.9 million for Jonas Donskoy, $3.5 million for Brett Connolly, a Paul Byron type in Montreal, Zach Kassian in Edmonton. And I mean, this is just me being objective in this sense. I don't think it's unfair to say that Zach Hyman is better than all of those players. Maybe Jonas Donskoy and Zach Hyman are kind of even. But tiebreaker goes to the Leaf, okay? I don't make the rules here. That's just the way that it is. Actually, I do make the rules here? Okay, yeah, still, the tiebreaker goes to the Leaf. So we've kind of established already $3.5 to $4 million is probably a decent starting range, but I could definitely see Zach Hyman's eventual contract being higher than that. If we come on over to evolvinghockey.com, Evolving Wild on Twitter, again, I will always plug them because this tool is so helpful if you want to spend the $5 a month on supporting them. Patreon, you get access to all this information and stuff like that. I just think it's awesome. But they're saying most likely on average, Zach Hyman signs a contract in an $82.5 million salary cap with the Toronto Maple Leafs, because that's also something that they consider here. Signing with the same team gives a little bit of a discount here. On average, 4 years, $5.3 million. Now, I think at that point, Zach Hyman would price himself out of being a Toronto Maple Leaf for a very long time. And it's not that I don't think that Zach Hyman is worth that amount of money. Right now, today, probably on the open market, he gets that amount of money. But it's by the time his contract expires, he's going to be 29 years old, and a 4-year deal would bring him until he's 33. And for the type of minutes that he plays and the role that he plays, I don't know if he's going to hold up that long. I'm more on the boat. The most money that I would go on Zach Hyman is $4.5 million for 3 seasons. I think that that's a fair amount of money for this player, for the type of minutes that he plays, the role that he plays, and that's still an affordable amount. And there's not even any arguing it. With the way that the Maple Leafs are set up right now financially, there's no way that they could pay guys like Zach Hyman more than $4.5 million in 3 seasons. I mean, go ahead and give him the full no movement clause. I don't have any plans on trading the guy. And that does have some value, because like you're seeing with Kasperi Kapanen and Andreas Johnsson and Alexander Kerfoot, signing relatively longer term deals in 3-year contracts, and all of them immediately on the trading block. And if you take a look at what the Blackhawks were able to accomplish from 2010 to 2015, they were able to do that because they were able to say no to 29-year-olds on 4-year deals for $4.5 million. Zach Hyman, I think, is the exception to that, but you can't just say yes to everyone. I mean, the Blackhawks shed Chris Versteeg, Dustin Byfuglien, Dave Bolland, Nicholas Hjalmarsson, Brandon Saad, Andrew Ladd, multiple other players that were still effective in their own degree after they left the Blackhawks for, a certain amount of time. But where the Blackhawks went wrong wasn't necessarily overcommitting to Jonathan Toews and Patrick Kane, because those are still 2 superstars in the NHL, but it was overcommitting to guys that were only had a year or 2, maybe 3 left when they signed them, and they signed them to 8-year deals. And right away, Brent Seabrook screams out at you because the guy was a healthy scratch making $6.8 million this season. $6.8 million ain't a little bit of money, and it's for the next 4 seasons. The Blackhawks are they're unbelievably lucky that we're more than likely going to get compliance buyouts this year. Now, I don't know if this is the most analytically driven comparison, but stylistically, just on the surface, what I see about these players, Patric Hornqvist for the Pittsburgh Penguins was an important player in their 2 Stanley Cups. He was part of the HBK line, that one playoff run. And when you take a look at his success with the Penguins, or his career with the Penguins, and then you take a look at Zach Hyman's production for the Toronto Maple Leafs, you can't help but make a comparison there. Just 2 guys that absolutely go to work every single game. Now, am I giving more credit to Patric Hornqvist than I am to Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin? Definitely not. And will I be giving more credit to Zach Hyman than I will be the core 4 guys in Toronto? Definitely not. But the fact of the matter is I do not view Zach Hyman as a replaceable player on this roster, and that's why I think you commit the money to him. So just to summarize, $5 million for 4 seasons, probably too much money, probably not going to be an option for the Toronto Maple Leafs. $4.5 million for 3 or 4 seasons, I could see that working. So make sure to like the video if you did like it, subscribe for more because more is always on the way. And guys, just remember, Zach Hyman absolutely does unequivocally belong on a line with Austin Matthews and William Nylander.